Hey friends, welcome to today's video. Today we are glamming it up. I have a special event tonight. It is an event that honors and recognizes women in business and leadership roles in the Austin area. And it's kind of like cocktail attire. There will be some women there in more formal gowns, but it's a dressy event. So I just cut my hair yesterday. This is my first video with my short hair. It was kind of spontaneous actually. There was really no plan to do this yesterday when I went in for my color and highlight touch up, but I just was like, you know what? I'm ready for a change. So a change I got. I'm going to be doing a pretty full face of glam, and I'll just kind of be sharing tips and tricks like I normally do, how I like to do my makeup and how little tips and tricks that I have to make your makeup last all night and just look really great for photographs. There will be a lot of photos taken tonight and I just want to look my best. So I've got all my products picked out and selected here. We're working with a bunch of different random brands. I've got some Say Beauty, NARS, Makeup by Mario, Milk, Lancome, Danessa Myricks, Bobbi Brown. I've got a lot of good stuff. All products available from Sephora. This video is in partnership with Sephora, so let's go ahead and get started. I don't have anything on my face right now except a little bit of my tinted SPF. I want to start by putting something on my lips because my lips are really dry. And I'm going to be using this lip plumper from Sephora later, so I'm going to go ahead and put a little bit on right now. This is a really nice lip plumping gloss. I think this color is called Moonstone or Moon Glow. No, it's not actually. It's 01 Outrageous, but it's just like a clear with a little bit of a pinky pearlescent tint to it. It's great just to prep and prime your lips, but I'm also going to use it later on top of lipstick to add a high shine. So let's go ahead and start with foundation first. I actually just purchased this from Sephora. This is the Lancome Tint Idole Ultra Wear Sunscreen SPF 25. I ordered the shade 235N Neutral. Let's see if I did good, if I passed the test of ordering foundations online. Okay, it looks promising. I always like to order my foundations like maybe one shade. Like if you're looking at foundations online and you're kind of like, oh gosh, this one looks too dark, but the next one looks too light, I always go with the lighter option because you can always add bronzer and warm it up. And then you kind of have this really pretty highlighted contour effect from having a lighter foundation and bronzer. And it's just easier to work with than going with the foundation that's too dark. So that's my first little tip for you. If you ever find yourself and you're like, they don't really have your exact shade, but one's a little dark, one's a little light, go with a lighter one. I think this is, in that case, going to be the lighter version. Now, I want full coverage tonight, so I'm using a dense foundation brush, something that is really going to lay that product on and give me full coverage. And I'm also just pressing it onto the skin. Do you notice I'm just using my brush almost like a sponge, just pressing? This is going to allow me to build that coverage. When you press like this, you're going to build coverage. When you swipe or go in large circles or sweeping motions, you're essentially shearing out the product for a more lighter, natural coverage. Now, the reason I like to use a dense round brush versus a sponge when I want full coverage is because a sponge will absorb a little bit more of your product than a brush will, especially when you're working with brushes with synthetic fibers. They don't absorb product like brushes with natural fibers. So you end up absorbing less product on your brush, which allows you to get it more of it on your face, which will give you that full coverage you want. And this brush kind of does all the work. Even though I'm not really blending, I'm still getting a good blend by just the bristles bouncing on my skin. Okay, that is pretty flawless. All right, so I did one full pump and I definitely think this is going to be enough and all I need today. So I'm really excited about this event. I really look forward to this event every year. It is hosted by a local publication here in Austin that really celebrates women, recognizes women in the community. I got a table to this event, so there will be a lot of ladies from our team at the table, and then I invited a couple of friends as well, so it'll be fun. Okay, that looks really good. So you can still see a little bit of pinkness on my nose, so I'm gonna go in there and build a little more coverage. I'm just gonna take whatever's left on my brush and just concentrate that right on the nose. This foundation is very lightweight. It is buildable. I would say I did a pretty generous amount of product, meaning I really built it to get full coverage. I could get lighter coverage if I used less, but even at full coverage, it looks very natural. It has a very natural finish to the skin. It doesn't look powdered or matte, but it doesn't really have a lot of glow. You guys are seeing a glow, but it's really because I have these lights on me, and so the light's really reflecting off my skin. Okay, perfect. I forgot to bring a hair tie, so we're just gonna tuck the hair behind the ears today. Okay, so let's go in with concealer. The concealer that I'm using today is Lancome's Tint Idole Concealer, and I have the shade Bisque Neutral. This concealer is nice. It's lightweight. It also gives pretty customizable coverage. It lasts all day long. Also, this foundation, by the way, is like a 24-hour wear, I think I read. 24-hour wear foundation, breathable coverage. Sign me up. Because this concealer is on the lighter weight side and I want, you know, a pretty glam look, I'm going to use a little more than I normally would. I want full coverage tonight. I would love to know from you guys, because I'm always on the hunt for amazing and great concealers, what are your top 3 concealers from Sephora? Will you let me know in the comment section below? What are your top 3 concealers? If you want to give even more info, like not just the brand and the name, but like what kind of coverage they give or why you love it, that would be so helpful. It is very difficult for me to pick my absolute favorite concealer. I think last time I said it was the Pat McGrath. Is it called Sublime Coverage? Sublime Perfection Coverage? The Pat McGrath concealer. I really love that. That's a full coverage concealer. I love the texture of it. It's kind of like this really interesting gel-like texture almost. It looks so smooth on the skin, but it gives full coverage. It's like a heavy concealer that doesn't look heavy in my opinion. I would have to say that would be my absolute top favorite, but I'm curious to know what are yours. Oh, that's nice. Look at that. I feel like the face is flawless now. Everything is flawless and even. So I need to go back in and add some dimension to the face. I'm gonna go in with a somewhat new product to me. I purchased this. Did I get it at the Sephora VIB savings event? I think I got it at the savings event. It's the Milk Makeup little contour stick. It's called the Sculpt Stick. And this really is ideal, I think, in my opinion, for a contour. I'm gonna go in and actually use a powder bronzer to warm up the face and add a little more warmth, but I want some definition. So I'm gonna go in and use this. And I'm actually gonna use a brush and go to the product this way. This is a pretty dark contour shade. I certainly could go directly to the skin if I wanted, but I want to use a brush just to have a little more control and not go too heavy, especially since I'm laying a powder bronzer on top of it. This is glam makeup, so I'm pulling out all the stops and I'm going for it. But when I'm using a lot of makeup, I like to do little bitty layers of a lot of makeup. So that's what we're doing here. So I'm taking a small brush and I'm just going to create some shape and structure, mainly kind of defining my cheek here. Do you see what that did? That just creates some natural definition. There was a little bit of blush left over on my brush, so it kind of tweaked the color. But do you see what that did? If I'm looking in the mirror, you can see, I didn't take it too far. I kind of stopped right about here, but you can see just more structure and definition where I applied the contour versus where I did not. Ooh, that's nice. Okay. Went a little further over with my contour, but that's okay. I do need to even us out though. When you're doing contour on the cheekbones, I always recommend starting back here, apply the product first here, your brush, where you go in with your brush. The first place you put your brush is where you're gonna have the most color payoff, right? So the idea is that we have more of that product here and then it slowly kind of fades as we get closer to the mouth and the cheek area. So you don't want it to be too heavy and dark here. So always start back here. I am going to do a little bit on my nose. I'm going to take the bronzer on the forehead. I'm not going to do any contour on the forehead. I'm just going to do bronzer. I kind of have a small forehead. I don't have a lot of room, so I don't really feel the need to contour that area and make my forehead even smaller. Okay, I want you guys to see what that contour did right here, just on that side of the nose. Do you see what that did? It's just kind of slimming the profile of my nose a little bit, giving me a little more definition. This is a very soft, natural contour, which I am all about. I don't usually contour my nose, but for special events or occasions or photographs, I always do. Lovely, I love that. Okay, now let's go ahead and kind of set and top that with a little bit of powder bronzer. I'm gonna use the NARS Laguna bronzer, and I'm using a large fluffy brush, something that'll pick up the product very lightly and deposit it very lightly. And I'm just going to do a little soft swipe over that contour. Just gonna soften it a little bit and warm it up a tad. Perfect. I'm gonna take the same brush and I'm just going to kind of sweep it across my forehead and my hairline. Perfect. Okay, just kind of warm the face up and you can even put a little bit on the nose. Lovely. Okay, let's go ahead and create some brows. I am switching it up today. I thought I would put this Charlotte Tilbury Brow Definer pencil down, even though it's my favorite, and I picked up this more microfine pencil from Lancome. This is the Brow Define pencil in the shade Light Brown. This has a much finer little tip to it than the Charlotte Tilbury waxy one that I use and love, but I like to use these when I am doing a more dramatic look, just because I'm taking more time on my makeup. There's more attention to detail, and this is definitely more of a detail brow product than the Charlotte Tilbury. First, I'm gonna kind of comb up my crazy unruly brows. They might be thin, but what's there is a little unruly. And then I'm gonna go in and I'm going to create my brow. I'm gonna start here at the start of the brow, the bulk of the brow. That's where I really don't have a lot of hair. And I'm gonna do soft little strokes to create that hair-like look, mainly kind of upwards to kind of create like that ideal brow. Then I'm going to go down at the kind of bottom of my brow and I'm going to create that base. And I'm doing little bitty strokes. I find that you get a more natural looking brow. When you're creating a brow like I am, you know, I don't have much brow there and I'm gonna completely create this shape. Soft little natural strokes is gonna give a more natural look to the brow. So it'll look a lot softer than trying to just draw in one line this perfect brow. When I get out here to the tip, I'm gonna slightly extend it. Then I'm gonna go and I'm gonna fill the top up. So I'm almost creating a little border. Then I'm gonna go in and fill in that border. But I wanna create the shape first. And again, my pressure is very, very light, particularly on brows. You wanna have your brows defined, but you don't want them to be too strong or too intense. It can just kind of be a little harsh on the face. It can also give the look of like angry eyes. Keep everything soft. You can still have a nice shape and definition, but a softer look. Then I'm gonna take the spoolie and I'm just gonna kind of run it through. That's gonna soften it a little bit more and then kind of perfect this area here. This is a nice brow pencil. If you like a more fine tip brow pencil, this one's really good. It's soft, which is good for application because you don't need to use a lot of pressure. It has a good amount of pigment payoff, and it's really great if you have like little missing chunks in your brow. Like if you have a brow but you have little holes in it, this is great because you can kind of just create and fill in those little holes very easily. It's going to take a little bit more time than say a bigger, waxier brow pencil, but there are some benefits to using a product like this versus a larger, waxier pencil. I do like to use a brow gel to follow up, and this one is from Merit Beauty. This is the brow gel in the shade Brown. And the reason I like to do this is because it gives a little more volume to the brow, which makes it look more natural because it looks like actual hair. It also is gonna kind of comb and keep the brow hairs in place, lay them down. If they tend to grow down or up, this will kind of shape them and keep them in place. Think of like a hair gel for your hair, but with a tint and for your brows. Ah, perfect. Okay, so the skin is perfected. We will be doing blush later. Let's go ahead and start with eyes. So to start the eyes, we're gonna start by priming the eyes, and I'm using the Danessa Myricks Color Fix, and I'm just using a real light neutral shade. I'm going to apply this all over the lid and kind of blend into the crease. I really love these products. I've talked about these products a lot here on my channel. This was a product that intimidated me for the longest time, and then the first time I used it, it was one of those products that I was like, this is an amazing product and people need to try it. It can be used on the eyes, the cheeks, the lips. Obviously the colors of it are going to kind of influence where you use it, but I love them. I usually wear them as shadows alone. So I'll just apply this on my eye and then I will apply liner and go, or apply crease color. But this particular one is a nice kind of primer color, right? It's just the color of skin. And since it's more of a special occasion, I'm going to be doing more shadow and making more of a glamorous look. But this is going to basically create a little seal on my eyelid to prevent creasing. It's also going to intensify the color of the shadows I use and just really make the eye makeup look that much better. So you see how it just creates a really pretty even canvas? Perfect. Okay. Next, I'm going to go in and I'm going to softly set the eyes. I'm going to go in with the Makeup by Mario Ethereal Eyes palette. This is such a beautiful palette. And I'm going to use the lightest shade in here and I'm just going to softly dust it onto the lid to set that product and then just kind of go underneath the brow a bit as well. Perfect. So I'm going to create some definition in the crease. And I'm going to go in with this shade right here. It's a nice, pretty cool tone, matte, neutral shade. When you want to create definition in the eye socket or the crease, make sure you're using a matte shade and make sure that it's a few shades deeper than your skin tone. It needs to be dark enough to create the illusion of a shadow. And the reason you want it to be matte is because shimmer reflects light and it kind of makes an area seem like it's more protruding. That's why you'll see highlights on the cheekbones, or that's why we like to use shimmer on the lid of the eye because it makes those areas kind of pop out. Where in the crease area, the goal is to create more definition, right? So we want to use matte shades. And I'm just sweeping this back and forth to create some definition. I am going to go in with a deeper shade to create more definition, but this is a great place to start. I always recommend starting with a shade like this before going in with a dark. If you try and skip this step and just go in with a dark color and then apply lighter colors, it just makes your makeup look a little harsh, not so airbrushed or like pretty. The transitions are a little more abrupt, and it's just the difference between taking that extra few minutes and having a more like elevated professional makeup look. Perfect. Okay. Next, I'm going to go in with a richer, deeper color. We're working with this shade here, and I'm going to go in with a smaller crease brush. And the reason I'm using something smaller is so I have a little more control over that. And I'm placing that right here in the outer corner and kind of working it into the crease about halfway over. This is just going to add a little more depth to this look. Then I'm going to kind of take that same shade and I'm going to softly blend it onto the lid and kind of bring it, I would say, about halfway over. I want you to really see some of that warmth because the first shade we laid down was cooler, where this has a lot more warmth to it, and I want you to see that. Perfect. Next, I'm taking a small shader brush and I'm going to go in with this really light peach shade right here. It's also matte. We're going to go with a pretty much matte look. We're going to add a little bit of a shimmer highlight in very strategic places, but the majority of the shadow is all going to be matte. I think that's a really pretty classic look. I'm going to pack this on to the center of the lid and kind of work my way to the inner corner. I just think a classic, neutral, dramatic matte look like this is so like old Hollywood. I don't know, I just love it. I think it's beautiful and stunning. These particular shades, this formula is very velvety. Like the finish just looks very smooth and velvety. I don't know if they make claims to smooth out texture, but I really feel like it just makes the lid look so smooth. Last, I'm going to take that brush that I use for the darker color, and I didn't add anything to it, but I'm just kind of going over it one more time just to make sure all the transitions are seamless. Perfect. Next, I'm going to go in and kind of powder underneath the eyes and set the center of the face. I'm using the SEPHORA Beauty loose powder. This is a really nice, translucent, very lightweight powder. It'll set your makeup, but it'll keep everything very natural looking. And I'm just going to set in the center of the face and the forehead. Perfect. I am going to use some black liner on my upper lash line, and I'm using the new Danessa Myworks line work pencil. I'm sorry, it's not a pencil, it's a liquid liner pen. This is like the best liquid liner pen I've ever used. It's so rich. I mean, you just barely tap your skin and you get a really opaque, rich black line. I'm gonna do a slight little baby wing. Perfect, very thin, very minimal. So I'm curious, when you are going all out glam and you're taking the extra time to do your makeup, how much time does that take you? What is your normal daily makeup routine? Like how much time does that take? And then for special events, how much time do you spend on your makeup? I'm really curious to see y'all's responses. For the lower lash line, I'm taking this dual-ended Bobbi Brown Longwear Cream Shadow Stick, and I'm taking the darker side. This is the shade, by the way, I'll have all the shades that I used listed and linked in the description box, but this is Taupe and then Golden Pink. So I'm going to take the shade Taupe and we are going to use this on our lower lash line and kind of use this as liner. This is a very creamy formula, but what I love about this is even though it's creamy and so soft, once this guy dries, he stays in place all day or all night long. Doesn't crease, it doesn't move. So I'm using this as liner, and because this color is not too dark, you can see it's not too dark, I'm actually running it from the outer corner pretty much all the way to the inner corner. Now I'm going to use this one to add a little bit of color and a very soft kind of hazy smoky look, but I am going to go over this with a darker shadow on the outer corner to create more definition, and having that Longwear product, that cream product down first, it's kind of working like an adhesive for the powder shadow. It's just going to grip the powder shadow better, keep it on all day. So I'm going to go in with this shade right here. We haven't used this one. This is kind of a real warm saddle kind of peanut butter shade, and I'm just going to run and sweep that right on the outer half of my lower lash line. And it's actually translating darker than it looks in the palette because I have that cream down first, and also because I'm using a really small dense brush. The brushes that you use have such an impact on the payoff of your product. So sometimes if you don't like the way a product paid off, like it might not always be the product. It might be the tool that you're using to apply. It might be the wrong tool for what your goals are. Okay, beautiful. Oh, I love that. I love that. Now I do the last step, which is always take that first crease brush I used and kind of just do my last effort in blending. Perfect. Okay, now I'm going to go in with one more step. I'm going to take a small brush. I'm going to take that first shade we put down, that really light shade, and we are going to dust this underneath the eyebrow just to give a real natural little lift there. Perfect. Okay. I am going to curl my lashes and we are going to layer on mascara and lash primer. So I found a little trick with this lash primer. I've been using this lash primer for 10 years. This is the Dior Lash Maximizer. Oops. And I have always said that it's best to apply your mascara before this has time to dry. But what I would do is I would just work really quickly. I would do this lash with primer and then the next and then go to the mascara. Now what I'm finding is I really like to just do one eye at a time. So put lash primer on that one and then come in with my mascara. I'm using the Bobbi Brown Smoky Eye Mascara. This mascara needs more love because it is such a good mascara. Length, volume, and a very fanned out, soft, wispy lash is how I would describe it. But doing it this way, so applying the mascara when the lash primer is still really wet, it really allows you to separate those lashes and get a fanned out look. Perfect. Okay, let's do the other. Oh, look at those lashes. Isn't that amazing? They just look so perfect. Fanned out, length, volume. I got my mom this for Mother's Day. I put together a little set of kind of my favorite products for her, and this was one of them. And I'm gonna put a little bit on the lower lashes. All right. Okay, so eyes are all done. Let's go ahead and add some color to the cheeks. I have the Anastasia Beverly Hills blush stick in the shade Latte. This is a really pretty kind of rosy pink. Oh, darn. I rolled it up and darn, I'm gonna have to clean that off. And I'm actually gonna do the same technique that I used for the cream contour, which is take the brush, apply it to the product, and then apply it to the skin. Now I'm gonna start on my cheekbone a little bit higher. I'm gonna kind of blend up to give a little more lift to the cheeks. So pretty. Just a very great rosy, neutral, everyday shade. I'm kind of layering up that color on the cheeks, and I'm just gonna slightly dust it across my nose. Just a little bit. So for lips, I'm gonna overline the lips, and I'm using the Too Faced Lip Injection Extreme Shaper pencil. So I like this pencil. It is a lip plumping lip pencil, and it's pretty intense. I'm just gonna warn you, if you are very sensitive, you might find this to be a little too intense. I like it. Now that I'm used to it, the first time I used it, I was like, oh, this is really intense, you guys. But I'm not super sensitive to that, so I am gonna overline my lips. I'm gonna stop talking when I do it, but I do wanna share the shade. This is called Puffy Nude. Perfect. I'm gonna go in with Dior lipstick. This is the shade 625. I'll have it linked down below. And it's a pretty kind of like deep mauvey rosy shade. And then I'm gonna top it with a little bit of that Sephora lip plumper in the shade Outrageous. I'm gonna focus on keeping this in the center of the lip to give really full, pouty lips. Ooh, so pretty. I'm gonna add a little bit of the shimmer from this palette. I'm just gonna use my finger. I'm gonna use this light gold shade right here. And I'm just gonna kind of press that right in the center of the eye, just to give a little extra sparkle. So this is the finished look. I kind of like the way that it came out. I don't know that it's super glam like I intended, but I really love it and I do feel glamorous, so mission accomplished. I'll have all the products that I use listed and linked for you in the description box down below. If you have any questions about anything I used specifically, most of the information you can find will be in the description box, but feel free to leave your questions in the comment section below too. I'd also love to know your favorite concealers. Please share those down below. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope that you enjoyed it, and I will see you guys in my next one. Bye.